Alrighty, so we're now at the part of the Moving Forward series episode where we talk about teams that got eliminated in the playoffs, and we're going to continue to talk about these teams up until the point where we talk about this year's MLS Cup champion, that is LAFC. Well, actually not this year, but last season, but you know what I mean about that. And we're also going to go in order, which we're going to start with the first team that got eliminated in the playoffs, and that, of course, is the New York Redbulls. And I might as well just kind of copy and paste what I said about last season and then kind of do the same thing in the previous year about the New York Redbulls this season, because it's been pretty much the same. It's a team that did just enough in terms of making the playoffs, although I will say that just to not sound too generic, at least this season they had a better season compared to the last couple of seasons that they had, and compared to last year where they just sneak into the playoffs. They actually did get a home field advantage in this one, but then in the most that's so Metro kind of way, they waste that opportunity and it's another first round exit. But before that, they finished the season with a 15-8-11 record in the regular season and finished with 53 points. They scored 50 goals this season while allowing 41 goals with a goal differential of +9. They finished 4th in the Eastern Conference, but like it has been pretty much for the past couple of seasons for the New York Redbulls, they get eliminated in the first round of the playoffs, and this time they get eliminated by a team that is making their first playoff appearance, that is FC Cincinnati. And yeah, that, I think, you know, there's been so many playoff futility that the New York Red Bulls have for over the years, but I think this will definitely be ranked right up there in terms of the fact that they literally got eliminated by a team that have never made a playoff appearance and are literally making their first legitimate playoff game ever in their franchise history. Now, in terms of the top goal scored, unsurprisingly, Lewis Morgan is the top goal scorer of this team with 14 goals, and also unsurprisingly, he's the only goal scorer for this New York Red Bull side, because after that, that's when you see a massive drop in terms of the goal scoring department. Patrick Klimala and Luke Kenias are the next two with 5 goals, followed by Tom Barlow and Aaron Long with 4 goals. And again, when your defender is basically one of your top goal scorers, yeah, you might be have to question in terms of your attack. And that, again, what's also kind of surprising, the fact that, you know, the Red Bulls, they didn't really struggle in terms of scoring goals this season. I mean, the 50 goals that they scored this season seems like a lot. And again, there are some games where they have been able to put the ball in the back net with ease, especially when it comes to when they're playing on the road. But in terms of the top assist leader, again, there really isn't a standout guy that you can say that he is basically the playmaker of this team. But you got Christian Castros Jr. with 6 assists, Omar Fernandez also with 6 assists, Frankie Amaya with 5 assists, Lewis Morgan with 4 assists, and Patrick Klimala rounds up the top 5 with 3 assists. Now, some of the highlights for the Red Bull season. I mean, their playoff streak is still alive. They now currently have the longest active playoff streak out of any team, after we saw the Seattle Sounders had their playoff streak come to an end after missing the playoffs for the very first time. So at least that's something. I mean, I know this franchise has really just been cursed for a while, and that, you know, Red Bulls fan will say that, yeah, who cares about playoff streak whenever we get to the playoffs, we don't really do much in terms of that. And I do in some way agree with the way that, you know, I'm pretty sure every Red Bulls fan can say that they rather have a season where they win MLS Cup and then go through a bit of a drought in the playoffs than keep whatever the playoff streak that they're on, which I believe is now 13 years that they have made it to the playoffs. And it's kind of interesting with the playoff streak, the fact that every single year I thought this was the year that it comes to an end, and somehow in some way they find ways to keep it going. And a lot of the reason why their playoff streak had to continue and why they kind of did really well this season is because of the road form. I mean, this was one of the strongest road team this season, and really for a long time was the strongest road team. I mean, if it wasn't for Montreal that near the second half season decided that they're going to win every single road game, they would have finished the best road record out of any team with 9 wins on the road, again, second best in MLS, only for Montreal, who of course broke the record for the most road wins any team has ever had in a single season with 11 road wins. And yeah, again, there's just something about this team, the fact that for whatever reason they do well on the road. Again, you know, maybe some has to do with the tactical wise, where this is a team under Gerhard Struber don't like possession, and when you're on the road, you're not going to get as much possession. You're going to try to play that counter attack in soccer, and that's what the Red Bulls fit well, and maybe that kind of explains why they won a lot of those road games, and hence maybe also explain why they lost a lot of those home games too, because as we now transition into the lowlights for the Red Bulls, it's the home form. I mean, it was abysmal in terms of this season. I mean, I will say that it kind of improved as the season goes along, but man, in the beginning of the year, we talked about how the Red Bulls were probably the most bipolar team I've ever seen in league history, where in the beginning of the season, they would go on a streak where they would break or actually not break the record, but tie the record for the most road wins to start the season. But at the same time, they also would find a lot of hard ways to get a home win, and that I even joking aside that maybe that's why Red Bulls fans don't show up at the stadium, because they know their team is gonna lose. It's better for them to show up on the road because they know that their team, of course, can win games. And that again, it's so odd to see a team that does so well on the road and then they fail miserably at home. And then again, I go back to what I said with the way that it seems like the only way I can explain with the tactics of them not willing to have possession, and that this has always been one of the lowest possession team out of the league. It fits perfectly well because when you're at home, you're going to be dictating plays, and the Red Bulls don't want to do that. But teams are they're kind of almost in some way forced to, because they're playing at home, or the opposition decided to do the same tactics that the Red Bulls would do on the road, and they really struggle in terms of trying to break teams down when they have to have possession and so forth. And then besides Lewis Morgan, there was no legitimate attacking threat. I mean, I will say that it's not just no legit attacking threat, but it feels like it's almost like a team that besides Lewis Morgan, they started to have that belief that the team, of course, is the star, and whoever, of course, will chip in will do so. And sometimes that's not a bad tactics. I mean, we have seen some teams where they don't really have a legitimately goal scorer, but everybody kind of chip in there, and eventually that is actually something that can be dangerous when for a team to play against, because you just don't know who exactly is that danger man. And that again, the Red Bulls, there's been times where they have shown that you didn't expect him to be on the score sheet, and yet he of course ends up on the score sheets, and maybe that hence why they were able to score 50 goals, despite the fact that besides Lewis Morgan, who stands out in terms of the goal scoring department, there really isn't anybody that were able to do so. And then, of course, the annual first-round playoff exit and the That's So Metro moment to get eliminated. I mean, in that game against FC Cincinnati, they were 1-0 up. They were looking like they were on their way to move on into the second round of the playoffs. And then you got to remember, this is the New York Red Bulls. They always find ways to lose in the playoffs, and have a That's So Metro moment. Give up two goals in the second half, including one literally in the 87 minutes. And therefore, that is exactly how they got eliminated in the playoffs. And that, I mean, I don't know if a lot of Red Bulls fans saw it coming. They kind of knew that, with the way that how good this team has been on the road, playing their first game at home was probably the worst scenario. And especially with the way that they were playing against a Cincinnati team that is kind of similar to them, where they are a very good road team this season. That looked like it was going to be a disastrous kind of matchup. And it also, I don't think it's just that, it's just the way how Cincinnati was running in such a good form, while the Red Bulls, they weren't really that hard coming into the playoffs. You just had a feeling that this was going to be an upset written all over for it, and that of course is the case. And in the end, I don't even know if it's called an upset if you are able to beat the Red Bulls, who has been the kings of first round exit for the past couple of seasons. Now, in terms of the MVP and revelation, I mean, this shouldn't be even a discussion. It's got to be Lewis Morgan. I mean, he literally carried this attack and making Inter Miami to regretting it in terms of letting him go. And I mentioned about Inter Miami taking big L's when they decided to let go of Julian Carranza, and now they took another L. And I would say that this one kind of hurts a little bit more compared to the Julian Carranza one, because I think with Julian Carranza, he just didn't fit the system with Inter Miami, and that's why he kind of fried during his time with the Union, where he clearly fits the system. Whereas for Lewis Morgan, he was always good with Inter Miami. Like, he had a decent first season. I mean, the second season, his production definitely dropped, but I definitely did not expect him to just get traded to the New York Redbulls, and that, yeah, again, I'm pretty sure Inter Miami fans are probably regretting that, and certainly the organization itself regretting the fact that, man, can you imagine if Inter Miami had a Julian Carranza that actually fits the system, and Lewis Morgan at the same time, and you have Gonzalo Higuain as well? Oh boy, that attack can all of a sudden become a very good attack. In that, again, it just, I know this is not a moving forward series about Inter Miami, and of course we'll get to talk about Inter Miami in the moving forward series in a bit, but it just shows you how what could have been good, and what the way that they built their squad. It actually wasn't bad, but it's just the system that did not work out, and other teams are basically taking full advantage of that. Disappointment, it's got to be Patrick Klimala. I mean, I was gonna maybe think about putting Luquinhas there, because I think after Luquinhas had a decent spell when he came to the Red Bulls, he really struggled down the stretch. But it's got to be Patrick Klimala by a pretty long shot. I mean, it has been just an absolute miserable season for Klimala. So miserable at a point where he was basically getting bench for this Red Bulls team. And how many times I talk about how if you bench your designated player, something has gone terribly wrong in terms of signing him. And that, I remember doing his first season with the Red Bulls. I didn't think he had a bad season, though. The numbers that he put up, I still think is kind of underwhelmed in terms of being a DP player. Well, this season, not only the fact that he put up underwhelming numbers again, but it was just at a rate where for the Red Bulls, I think that's going to be something that they're going to have to maybe figure out in the offseason in terms of trying to move on from him, because with the way that he's going to be occupying a DP spot, and also the same goes with Luquinhas. Yeah, they don't. Again, the Red Bulls have never been known to be a team that has been able to sign good DP player, maybe besides Kaku when he came into the league, but then he kind of spiraled out of control because of the injuries concern, and that it's basically showing again with their recent DP signing that just turns out to be absolute bust when they came into the league. Now, moving forward, how is the Red Bulls going to look like? Well, it feels like the Red Bulls are going to do their typical thing in the offseason, and I think this is something that kind of frustrates a lot of Red Bulls fans. The fact that the team is going to do their philosophy of selling maybe some key pieces, and especially decided to get rid of their captain and trade him to another team, and we've already seen it with Aaron Long being now with LAFC, and that, again, whoever is going to be the captain of this Red Bulls team, he might as well just get ready to look for a new place in about 2 years' time, because we know he's probably going to be gone because of the way that's just been the trend for the Red Bulls for the past almost 10 years now, and that yeah, it feels like what they're going to just do is that hope that the academy product will bring some more good academy players to at least get the team to be decent enough to make it to the playoffs, but don't have enough to go deep into the playoffs. And I think maybe that's the issue with the Red Bulls, of why they haven't been making deep playoff run. When you of course get a lot of academy players, and I will say that as many times before, with the way that the Red Bulls Academy, along with the FC Dallas Academy and the recent Philadelphia Union Academy being the best in the league, they have been able to produce good talent in a way where this team can of course make it to the playoffs. But one of the issue with that is that with a lot of these young guys, once playoff time has and once we get to the time where it is crunch time, the inexperience of these young players is going to shown in the playoffs, and that again, I just think that this is kind of not sustainable, and that in some way this is the problem that Dallas has had for a very long time, until recently they finally started to maybe focus a little bit more on not just their academy, but also in terms of getting better scout, in terms of getting veteran player, and that's what the Red Bulls need to do. They want to finally get over the hump, because what they're doing here is just kind of sell some key players and look in the academy, promote them, and then of course make the playoffs again. That's just not to do it. And especially with the scouts that they have to try to find some diamond in the rough in the transfer market, being very cheap in terms of trying to do so. That's also not going to work out too, and that yeah, it's kind of frustrated that that's kind of the way that they're going right now, and that's the philosophy, and that again, there's no wonder why the fan interest of this team has gone lower and lower because of this philosophy. Just does not actually get a team that can get over the hump. I mean, it can get a team to maybe be a good playoff team, but it's not going to get a team or get a team to make it to the playoffs, but it's not going to get a team that goes deep into the playoffs. Oh, they need a new number 9. I mean, that is pretty much a big priority in the offseason. And in some way, I mentioned in the News of the Week episode, it seems like they're trying to get a new number 9 on the way, and we'll see whether or not if that, of course, would work out, because it's hard to believe that ever since Bradley Wright Phillips have left this team, they have still not replaced him. Like, they still have not replaced his product in that number 9 position. The closest I would say would be Brian White, but then they traded him away to the Vancouver Whitecaps. So yeah, they absolutely need a number 9 there, and need a guy that can be a proven goal scorer. And then of course the last thing they need to do moving forward is offload both of their attacking DPs. So guys like Patrick Klimala and Luquinhas, they have to overload him, and especially in Klimala cases, they have to overload him, because this is turning into one of the worst contract in the league, and turning into one of the worst DP signing we've seen in recent time. And that if they don't offload that, then yeah, they want to improve their team. The first thing to do is just trying to get rid of your designated player that is clearly not working out. But even then, we don't know if they can do so, because I think Klimala is under contract, and if they terminate his contract, then they have to eat that kind of amount that they have. And knowing the fact that the Red Bulls have always been cheap in terms of that, I don't think their front office is willing to trying to eat that contract if they decide to release him. But there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of looking at the New York Red Bulls in this moving forward series. Let me know in the comments below if you're a Red Bulls fan. What are some of the highlights, the lowlights, and also the MVP revelation, disappointment, and most importantly, moving forward, how is this team going to look in the future? But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys do like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.